Happy Sunday, Tampa Bay. We're starting our Sunday off with some laughs. We're in here laughing in the studio because I have put a self-imposed limitation on myself to not talk more than 30 seconds today. So they're going to buzz it. You're going to hear them go, every time I attempt it. We have a full house today. We got a lot of stuff to get to. I think the first thing I want to start talking about is what was on the first page of the Trib today. The boom you hear in Pasco, all the real estate development that's coming to Pasco County. And I think we have a great panel of experts today to talk about some of the boom and all the development we're seeing. Scott Eckley with D.R. Horton, Aaron Davis with Hillsborough Title and Florida Agency Network, and then David and Arnie Diaz, the Diaz duo, Waterstone Mortgage. Okay, that's my 30 seconds, guys. So I'll start. We're just going to kind of go around the table. Scott, obviously Pasco is a huge target for the market right now. We're seeing a lot of population growth there. What are you guys seeing as a builder with all that development that's being pushed?
We're just seeing lots of traffic. Our community store, we've got about 7 or 8 different communities that we're currently selling within Pasco County, and you've just seen over the last 6 months the traffic continues to increase almost week by week, and the last 2 months for us in particular, we've kind of been breaking records as it relates to home sales, and that's both over the Horton brand that we sell and our Express brand. A lot, I would tell you more with the first-time entry-level buyer, probably seeing a little more of that traffic in Pasco than Hillsborough, but we're seeing a combination of both, and it's been fantastic.
That's interesting because I guess I think a lot of times you have kind of preformed opinions, and I would think, oh, Pasco, you're getting a lot of retirees, but it sounds like that's not the case with you guys. You're seeing a lot of first-time buyers.
You're seeing first-time buyers, and we've got some of the roads and infrastructure. The veterans done a lot for people who maybe need to work downtown, but they want to keep that purchase price maybe in the upper 100s, low 200s. So they're willing to drive a little bit, and now you've got
the expressway.
You get the expressway, you got the infrastructure, and they get a little more. They get good schools up there, a little more peace and quiet in some ways. Some people gravitate towards that, so it's a winning combination for a lot of buyers.
And Aaron, you guys obviously growing into that market, seeing a lot of growth there as well, right?
Correct. We opened up there. It was about 09 or 10, and about that time we were right in Seven Oaks, and lots of foreclosure activity, lots of vacant lots still, and now all of that is gone. It's just blown right through there. Now you've got the hospital that's come in, multiple malls, and I tell you, if you haven't done yourself a favor, just drive up north, head down into Trinity. Those areas, the whole place is just booming.
Trinity's, it's really interesting because, we obviously sell across the entire Tampa Bay area, so we'll have listings in Trinity. And I remember when I was a little bit more involved with the customer, so to speak, and meeting with more clients than I am today, going up there and meeting with people to sell their homes, it was probably more prevalent for us. We were doing a lot of deals there when we had the hedge funds buying. And just driving through there now, it's amazing the differences that we're seeing. What about you guys? You guys seeing a similar trend? A lot of home buyers, especially first-time home buyers, David. I think you'd have some talk on that. Really starting to go up that way because of the price point.
Yeah, and I think it's more. A lot of people stay on the sidelines for these last few years, as we know. But now, first-time home buyers, they might have a spouse and some kids, and they're trying to get away from the hustle and bustle of Tampa a little bit. And up there is still a great community with all the new malls, like you said. So I think it's not that surprising that people are moving up that way.
And I think when a lot of people think of Pasco, sometimes they'll think of, Newport Richey and Hudson, and obviously there's development and growth there, but I think a lot of Trinity, Wesley Chapel, Lando Lakes, I think that's really where, I think we're talking South Pasco is where a lot of the big development is, because you get up into North Pasco, the commute gets to be a little unbearable.
Well, here's the mortgage tip of the day for Pasco County. Specifically, what differentiates Pasco County from a mortgage perspective is pretty much all of Pasco County does USDA loans.
Right, so 100% financing.
100% financing. Now, USDA as an entity is, just like a lot of government entities, a little backed up and kind of messed up. But if you're willing to wait for USDA, then you can get 100% financing.
And obviously that's a huge plus. I think taxes, property tax is a little lower too. So I think you're dealing with, from an affordability standpoint, as the market in some of the hot areas of town starts to grow, and you get someone who's pretty cost conscious, their choices are they can either get more home and go further out, or they can get less home and stay in some of those hot areas. And I think that's probably something, Scott, you guys see a lot, is that customer, that's looking in one of your new home communities in maybe a hotter area, and they say, I can get a similar sized house because the land cost is lower out here in another area. You guys, I assume, see that.
Yeah, all day long, and that's the translation. The land, at least at this point, it's escalating quickly, but land prices are a little less that you're going to see in Pasco than Hillsborough, and that translates to a lower sales price on the home. So they're finding that value, and again, with the infrastructure in place, willing to make maybe an extra 10-15 minute commute to save $30,000, $40,000, $50,000.
And Aaron, and it's funny because a lot of the press around the development across Tampa Bay is going towards a lot of stuff Jeff Finnick's doing, the Lightning downtown, Channel Side. There's obviously a lot of pop from that, and that's going to do some great things for our area. But if you look at the entire MSA, there's just as much development going on in Pasco County. It's just spread out more. You've got it happening in little sprinkles and areas, and I see new communities popping up all the time along those 54, along those corridors that connect you from one side to the other. It's rampant how much development's going on.
Sure, and you get out there, again, at Wesley Chapel, you've got the new Florida hospital out there. I mean, just, hundreds of jobs and probably thousands of jobs around that area. And in the past, you'd only see the development around the major, corridors, your I-75s, and now you're kind of getting off a little bit, getting over there, getting right down the road just a bit. So it's exciting to see that kind of growth.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, and I think you guys, Arnie and David, can speak for it. I would suspect that you guys, from a mortgage perspective, when you get the first-time home buyer that does say, hey, and it's funny because a lot of times the mortgage professional gets pulled into stuff that the realtor does, but it's kind of a team approach sometimes. But you get the customer that says,
team approach all the time.
Yeah, that's but I can't afford $250,000 in this. I just can't do this. And you guys obviously have to know the market enough to say, look, I'm attempting to pre-qualify you. If you really want to stay under 200, you should look at this area or that area.
Right, yeah.
And Pasco, I assume, is probably one of those recommended areas for somebody that says, hey, I want to be in New Tampa or I want to be in Carrollwood, but I can only afford X, and I want a brand new home. Well, that really isn't available.
Well, and I think that back in the day, for a mortgage guy, they look at Pasco and they say, well, those are really small purchase prices there, but that's not really the case anymore. Now it's more of the median price, and so it's a lot more exciting. The only factor, I think the Veterans Expressway has helped to access.
That's been huge.
Yeah.
That's been and I think again it's going to help the same thing. Aaron, you were talking earlier about how Plant City is now forming a economic development council to get more development, and I think everything that you're seeing along that I-4 and what they're doing with the expressway in that direction is going to make more development drive to that area. I mean, Fishhawk Ranch wouldn't be what it is today if it hadn't had infrastructure and roads that can get people there at a reasonable commute.
Sure. And now you look, what was kind of funny, it's in Ruskin, for instance, you had the big announcement of the Amazon plant, a 1 million square foot facility. There's one in Lakeland too, a 1 million square foot facility right on County Line Road.
So how many people
with
can buy
more
homes
jobs, more homes, and then so now you see this Tampa Bay or downtown Tampa being the epicenter. Wesley Chapel, New Tampa 30 minutes north, Ruskin, Riverview, Apollo Beach 30 south. Plant City 30 east, right? So this whole infill is going to be
well, and it's interesting because you see the kind of this build out around Tampa, and a couple weeks ago we talked about an article that came out that said Tampa Bay was the best kept real estate secret in the country, and I think there's a lot of truth to that because when you compare us to an Orlando, where we're probably 5 to 10% below their average sale price. When you compare us to a Miami, where we're a lot percentage, we're a lot percentage lower than some of their average sale prices. I had a friend who sells down there, sell a beach condo, and it was like 1,600 square feet for like $1.3 million, and I was like, what? Are you serious? 1.3? That's not. You're not talking Beverly Hills. This is Miami.
Yeah.
So and Tampa's values and prices are still very, very reasonable for. For what opportunity and value you have here with employment. And I think another thing the article went into is how all of these things that are happening, so the Lightning winning, our market getting some national news, and of course my appearance on CNBC.
30 seconds is up.
I think it drew all the employers. But no, all the employers are coming down here. And they want to be in Tampa. We've got a winning sports team. We've got good infrastructure. We've got reasonable taxes, and so you get this influx of employers, and then you throw on top of that our retiree population coming back, which is something that I know you guys probably cater to that in some of your communities. I know down a little further south, like Lakewood Ranch and Sarah. So you get into some of those areas, and that's your target is. We're seeing that come back. 5 years ago, we lost it. We lost it to the Carolinas and Georgia. Now they're all coming back in droves.
Yeah, we're seeing both the full-time retiree, the part-time person wants that be a little more seasonal, and we're also seeing, quite frankly, a little more investor activity.
Yeah.
And so all those are coming together. I think.
Why is that, you think?
I think they're finding value. I know we just this last week sold a couple homes to some investors who were looking between us, Miami, and Orlando, which you talked about, and they saw more value in our marketplace at the prices we have, and in the weather is you can't replace that, right? We have the weather, we have the beaches, both Tampa and Sarasota. This is just.
You think they're looking to flip, or you think they're looking to rent and hold?
No, I think they're looking to rent and hold.
You know, and I'll tell you, we're seeing that too. And what we're seeing on that is, and I think it's funny because you see companies like Airbnb, turn into a $1 billion company, and a lot of people kind of get the excitement about, man, I want to buy this house and I'll use it sometimes, but I'll rent it out weekly the rest of the times. And we're getting a lot of people from outside of the area calling and saying, hey, I want to do seasonal rentals. I want to buy it and use it as a second home, but I want to rent it out here and there. So it's kind of interesting that a new business model like that is well advertised and well streamlined can almost create home buyers from saying, you know what, instead of hiring some property management company and jumping through the hoops of a seasonal rental with them, I can do this on my own, and I can buy my own house and use it when I want and then rent it out some of the other times if I market it well enough, and I don't know if you guys have ever gone onto those websites, but when we vacation, we do, and the difference, it's always funny. You can tell the difference between somebody that knows what they're doing, advertising their home for rent, and somebody that took the photos on their iPhone at night, and you probably don't want to rent there. But the nice part about that business and how much pop it's getting advertised is that it creates buyers. I think it's going to create.
Home is a game changer.
Yeah,
there's a couple apps out there that absolutely do that and that's driving some of these buyers here. And it just all feels really good, right? And having been in this now for over a decade, I was here in Florida in 03, 04, and you could feel this coming, and it ended poorly. And Arnie and David know this. There's a little bit of a restrictor plate in place that, from a financing perspective, is going to keep us from getting carried away. People who shouldn't be getting mortgages can't get a mortgage.
Sure.
And so it feels like a really sustainable, healthy growth right
it
now.
does, and I agree. And I think there's, when I talk to my friends around the country, we have some friends that are in town this weekend. Amanda and Travis Howard, who are actually in the top 50 of the Wall Street Journal, similar to us, list. And they, they're in Huntsville, Alabama. They sell about 500 homes a year. And we were talking at dinner last night, and they said similar things. It feels like it's more sustainable. And I think as I talk to some of these agents across the country, I hear from them all the good things going on in their market, and then I hear all the good things going on here. And even if their market starts to fail, because sometimes it's local, we have so many things in our favor right now in Tampa to a healthy real estate market. So we're going to continue this conversation after a quick break with Scott Eckley from D.R. Horton, Aaron Davis from Hillsborough Title, and Arnie and David Diaz from Waterstone Mortgage after a quick break here on 970 WFLA.